Hello everyone, welcome back to Days Professional, and today I'm here with Mrs. Lindsey Oh, who is a high school counselor at CHS. How are you doing, Mrs. O?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for taking the time out today to come and sit down on me on my show. And yeah, let's get straight into the questions. What do you say are some factors and or decisions which you had to make or which led you to choose to become a counselor?
Awesome. Well, kind of twofold with that. As far as becoming a counselor is one, the educational background that's required to do this. Just not anybody can be
Yeah.
like a school counselor. So first, I had my bachelor's degree in education. And so you have to teach for at least 3 years in the state of Texas. During the time that I was teaching, I kind of already, in the first year of teaching, decided I wanted to get my master's in counseling. So I worked on my master's while I was doing, fulfilling those 3 years of teaching requirement. I'd originally planned on teaching longer, but whenever I kind of got into the world of counseling and was interested in what that entailed, then that's when I made that change. So it does require, education-wise, a master's degree, passing all the certification tests and things like that. As far as kind of just ultimately kind of what led me there was my bachelor's degree was in what's called family consumer sciences education. I got a scholarship to major in that specifically, and that's what kind of led me to that direction. I knew I wanted to be a teacher, so I thought, you know what, if they're paying me to major in this specifically, I'm going to at least start somewhere. So I taught classes like child development, nutrition, just personal life skills and things like that. And when I was trying to decide what to get my master's in, because I value education, that was really important to me. I just didn't know what. Kids were coming to me just really talking about, different personal issues. I had a lot of students that were struggling. In the school I was at, a lot of teen pregnancies and just kind of how to handle that and the struggles. And so just as I was having those experiences, I was like, you know what, I definitely need to look at the counseling realm. And so that's what kind of led me down that path to get my master's in counseling and go this direction.
And how would you say, like, as you were a teacher, you noticed these problems? And what do you say are some other factors which really, like, how did the schooling experience really help you to, like, get a better understanding of what a counselor does? And how did it help you while you were a counselor?
Well, actually, my background and knowledge of a school counselor was pretty much non-existent. My high school was tiny. I only had 20 kids in my high school class, my graduating class. So our school district did not have a position of a counselor. So growing up in school, I did not see what that looked like. When I became a teacher, I taught at those same size schools. I had class sizes where they were 20. So even teaching, I didn't have experiences with that, which then kind of, as I was at the school that I was teaching and finishing up, they kind of had me a little bit part-time. So I was doing a little bit of both and just was shadowing and talking and making connections with people at larger districts that are school counselors. So really, to be honest, in my first year at Coppell, I was really nervous. Like, I'd been in another district. I've been a counselor for 7 years and I've had experience, but there was a little bit of intimidation because the district has never been as big as what it is where I'm at, as far as, am I going to know enough? Am I going to, be able to provide enough for students? Of course, obviously I want to grow and become stronger, but I'm actually very happy and pleasantly surprised with the knowledge basis that I have coming in and how I can grow. And then I'm not just behind the curve, not really having ever even had seen, so I don't really have the experience of seeing what a school counselor looks like. I have the perspective of, I want to be this because I didn't have this opportunity or have someone that did this.
hmm And going back to how you said that you went to like a small high school of about 20 odd kids, how would you say, what was the effect of you not being able to have a counselor? In what areas what areas would a counselor feel that if it was there, it would have been much more helpful?
I just, it's not only, college isn't the only thing that we do, but I will definitely say that would have been something that growing up, especially in a small town where you don't really know much about colleges or you don't see yourself living somewhere outside of kind of that bubble.
hmm
Um, it would have been amazing to have somebody just talk to me about my potential and opportunities and things like that. Like I said, I made the decision based off of the scholarship I got. I was in an organization. I earned this pretty high amount of scholarship money, but it was a limitation on degree plans. So the only thing I knew was, well, what colleges in Texas, because I was staying in Texas because I knew
Hmm.
that I needed to financially offer this degree plan. So I just made that decision. It would have been extremely helpful to have someone with that skill set to be able to explain that. And so I always want to make sure I'm doing that with kids. Like I always want to think, okay, I didn't know any of this, and how should I expect kids to know this information? To me, I know it now, and it's like very much second nature, but not everyone knows that. And I think too, just some of the things that I struggled with, it would have been nice to have someone to go to that was an unbiased person if I was struggling with things. You know, I think about some of the relationships that I had, whether it was with friends or dating in school, and just I wasn't comfortable talking to my parents about those things. And I was probably talking to my friends and not getting the best advice on that, or just someone to talk to.
Hmm.
And I, like in my role, I know kids are sometimes hesitant to come to us, but I always try to emphasize that if I got to seek outside help in order to support you, I will. But at the end of the day, I want you to have someone that's at least here that you can talk to, that you can confide in, and that's not a part of your daily schedule that you feel like has some kind of bias in what you're telling them, but just can kind of hear your perspective and help talk through whatever it is you're struggling with, so that you can try to figure out what, you know, how to solve it and how to navigate the situation.
Hmm. And what would you say are some key interests which are needed to like become a counselor? So like which areas should you really start gaining a knowledge in?
Uh, that, you know, everyone ideally when you go into counseling, you think it's all about, you know, you're going to get to help kids. Let's be realistic. I mean, we do a lot of college and a lot of academic planning. So I think it's a combination of both. And I like to make sure that I'm kind of growing in both areas. So definitely, like one of the classes I took in college was legal education, and it was actually not for counselors in their master's, it was for administrators, but I wanted to be an administrator potentially. So I said, can I substitute it? And I will advocate that every teacher or administrator counselor needs to take this class, just because when I don't know the answer to something, they kind of, it's kind of a joke in the counseling department, is if it's the question about like graduation requirements or how to do something, I go to TEA and I look up the legal, and I want to find the legal verbiage of something. So I think definitely knowing how to do your research and find out and make sure that you're following things correctly and protocols and stuff is important. And then also just in kind of growing is really just staying current. The older that I'm getting, I'm not on the young side. I've realized kind of I'm in a different generation at this point. I used to, when I was first in counseling, I was a part of the generation of kids I was working with. And
Hmm.
now I'm kind of realizing, oh, so we're not there. So it's important to make sure that like I listen to the kids and I don't seem, you know, judgmental about anything they're telling me just because it's different from the way I grew up, and really being open and continuing to learn and grow with, you know, the changes in this might have been a problem before, but how has it changed and evolved? You know, what's going on with kids today? And I think that that's a really important thing if you're wanting to go into school counseling, is wanting to make sure you're getting to know and connect with whatever age group it is. You know, I've always done secondary. I did do 1 year of elementary last year.
That's
School bell. um, and I think, you know, I realized my connection with the secondary over elementary was because I've always enjoyed this age group. I love talking. I love talking to y'all. I like to hear what's going on with you. I like, you know, I just like to know what's going on in your world. And so I think that having that interest in investigating and looking at what's going on with that age group is really important. So it's kind of, you know, twofold with the academic legal. I'm listening to a podcast on college admissions right now just to make sure I'm staying current. It's awesome. It's helpful. I'm about to send it out to all my kids to listen to. So it's a little bit of everything, just kind of, you
hmm.
know, everybody has their forte, but I try to make sure I'm trying to hit all aspects of what I would be doing as a counselor.
Hmm. And along with his interests, what would you say are some important non-technical and technical skills which are needed to really be successful and be able to connect with the students?
Yeah. Um, Same thing, you know, as far as being able to connect, I think I have learned over the years, it is a practice that silence and listening, I think, is one of the best, like, as far as like communication skills as a counselor, that when I first started, the silence, I thought I had to feel that. I thought I needed to say the perfect thing, or I needed to, you know, get through the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned over time that that silence is okay. Um, that just allowing a kid to just sit and when they're ready to talk and not feel like I have to say this perfect thing. So I think that that social kind of awareness is really important. I think that also the social cues of a lot of times whenever I find out something's going on with a kid, it was because we were going to meet about something a lot of times academic, but then you being in tune with the words they're saying and their body language and trying to pick up on, is there more going on in this than just like the question about, you
Right.
know, a class or something like that. And then as far as technical skills, I will say, I think technology is big. I think that I am trying to help the CHS counseling department and bring a technology aspect to it. Um, I am kind of the nerdy technology person with us because I like to see, what are teachers in the classroom and how can we innovate it in what we're doing? Because if kids are seeing it in the classroom and we connect it in ours, it's going to be easier for them, or they might respond better. And so there is that technical side. There's a lot of data entry, I feel like, that we do. So you do have to be pretty tech savvy if you're looking at high school, in school
Mm-hmm.
counseling.
Right.
So I think it's a balance between the two, having that kind of social awareness and stuff, but then also being able to pick up, computer programs and being able to read through legal and use spreadsheets and stuff like that. I use spreadsheets 24/7. Like they're my happy place when I just need something to not worry about something for a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I feel you on that one.
Yes.
Just go there and just be like, ah, yes, something I can
Yes.
just,
Sometimes a good spreadsheet just, yes, is good.
it's soothing.
So,
It calms you down.
yes.
Mm-hmm. And again, you were talking about how you had worked with elementary kids in the past. And how would you say we were able to adapt from elementary kids to high school students?
I will be really honest. It was like an outer body experience. I had to kind of really, because I had taught secondary, the lowest I had taught, or youngest I had taught was sixth grade whenever I was a teacher. So I had sixth grade experience and on up. My first few years of counseling, it was high school. I was an assistant principal for high school students. So when I came into the district and I took an elementary position, I have a 3-year-old. She's 4 now, but at the time 3. So that was kind of my only kind of connection with
Mm-hmm.
little kids and really like that relationship there. And so my biggest approach was really being vulnerable and being open with the teachers on my campus, and kind of each grade level. Whenever I met with them as a team, I was just very open that, I want to learn whatever you can kind of give me as far as what you see that they need growth in, and you see, emotionally, what are they struggling with? What are social behaviors that we need to work on? And I really tried to not come in with this, like, I know what I'm doing. I've been a counselor for, 6
Mm-hmm.
years, and really go, okay, I know this side, but I need to put pieces together and being open to learn from other people. And so listening to them and kind of adding that in, but then also it was fun at the elementary stage. You actually had more time to go. Like I got to meet with each class of kids and do lessons on social skills and dealing with emotions and how to handle, different things. And then also in small groups and individually. And so it was really cool to see. I think now coming back to high school, it puts those pieces together because you get to see how I could picture in every elementary kid what they're going to be like in high school, and you kind of see how those pieces all kind of fit together. So that was really cool. And that was definitely my approach last year, was just being open and vulnerable and saying like, I want to learn and I want to grow. I don't want to pretend like I know everything and, I'm not willing to listen, because I think that's important for sure.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say are some day-to-day challenges that you face, and how do you overcome them?
I This year is definitely different, just because of the virtual setting and so much of our communication is online. But if I were to take kind of that out of the equation, when you have kids on the campus as a counselor, I have learned I might come to work with like this tasks that I need to get done and some paperwork and all this stuff that I have planned. And if a kid's in crisis, it does not matter. Like that's the most important thing, as it should be. And that is where you've got to go, you know what? that other stuff is going to get done. We will figure it out. It'll all be fine. This is the most important thing. And so as a person that's very much a planner and likes to kind of like know what's kind of going on and have a routine, that's the biggest thing I've learned over the years is that, you know, you could be working on something and then 2 seconds later, it's done for the day. And
Right.
that's okay. That's completely fine.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a set schedule, which is kind of nice. You know, teachers, it's very much first, second, third period. When I got out of the classroom, that was a big adjustment, was figuring out, you know, how do you manage your time and what do you do with all the stuff you need to do? And so it took years in practice of just kind of figuring out, you know, what's the pacing of everything and how do I start my day? You know, emails, how I start my day this year, just because we're in virtual settings. So that's the first
Right.
thing I do is I check my emails and try to make sure that kids are getting answers to questions as quickly as possible so that they, you know, feel like, one, I'm here to support them and I'm a person to ask questions for, because if I don't respond, they're never going to ask me again. They're never going to come to me for anything ever again. And two, just to kind of, if it takes a load off of somebody else and helps somebody else, then that's important too.
Mm-hmm. And how would you say a normal day in your life looks like? So, what are some of your daily responsibilities? When do you come into the school and when do you leave the school?
Yeah. So technically work hours start, we have to be here about 8:20. I typically get here between 8 and 8:20. The school bell rings at 8:50. Do you want me to tell you based off of COVID this year or in other years?
Uh, this is like a mix of both. Why not?
A little bit of extra.
Yeah.
Typically, same. I would always get here the same time, no matter what. This year, because there's so many kids virtual, I go kind of more straight to my email and stuff. When there's a lot more kids in the building, it's nice to try to get out in the hallways more
Yeah.
and be able to like see them when they're going to classes. When that bell rings at 8:50, I definitely try to get up, and I still do it this year, but it's definitely a different feel when there's less foot
Right.
traffic
Mm-hmm.
and kids that, you know, you're wearing masks and you're trying to identify everyone. But I definitely try to start with like that communication piece and kind of make sure that I'm sifting through and answering any kind of emails and stuff. And really, as far as like the tackling the day, our stuff kind of happens almost in seasons, I guess you would say. So when school starts, it's all about making sure kids have a place to go and they're going in the correct location. So it's double checking everything. It's making sure everyone has a schedule. It's all of that kind of stuff. Then we really transition into that college application process. So it's really heavy with a lot of seniors asking questions and trying to help them navigate that process and get things done. Writing letters of recommendation I like to make them personable and put a lot of effort into them. So like this year I scheduled individual Zooms with all the seniors that asked for a letter of rec. Whether they showed up or not, that was up to them. But I did that because I had never worked with them before. And that's really unfair to just write a letter of rec based off
Sure.
of a resume.
Mm-hmm.
So putting that time into it, and then it kind of transitions into, and periodically, obviously checking grades. So anytime grade reports come out, it's like monitoring and going, okay, who do I need to have conversations with? Who might be, you know, why might their grades be this? Is it because we're not doing anything, or is something going on at home? Or are we struggling with this class? And really trying to figure out, you know, what's the root of what's going on. And then the middle of the year is a lot of, we just got done with, you know, all of our individual meetings with kids, which I love that we do that. I haven't been in a district that does that. And I love it because even though it's about academics, it builds the connections with every kid in just at least that 15 minutes where they see like, hopefully my personality is,
Another one.
yeah, I know it's time to go, be out of the building. Just hopefully that they see that they can have a connection with me and that I am here to help and that they're not a burden or a bother or anything like that, and that we get to devote that specific time to them and make that connection. And then right now it's really double checking stuff and making sure, again, seniors are going to graduate.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm working on a lot of stuff actually for juniors that are going to be seniors right now. I'm really excited about something I found when my brother-in-law went to school at Coppell and graduated in 2014. This is something that they, like a handbook that they had about like college and after high school stuff that I used as a new counselor that I loved. And I asked them, I was like, where did that go? And it hadn't been used in the last few years. And so we're trying to kind of get it going again. So I'm really excited. I've been working on that pretty much all day today and just trying to update it with like testing information and how to apply to college and what this means, just to be able to have a resource for kids to go to and parents to go to. And then we can leave by 4:30. Normally in a regular school year, I probably would be out the building at like 4:50 because of traffic and saying bye to kids.
Mm,
And kids are out of the building in like 5-10 minutes. So it's like 4:10 to 4:20, kids will be gone at this point. And just trying to make sure and say bye to them. And I've learned over the years, like with emails and stuff, I a lot of times still read it at home, but I don't respond unless it's like an emergency, and try
hmm.
to make sure and keep, had that time. I think that no matter what your job is and what you choose to do, um, it's still a job, and
Right.
like your personal life and your well-being and doing those things is also most important. So I try to make sure and do that for myself. I've learned over the years that it does make a difference in my work attitude and my home life attitude when I do that. So um, the day it's kind of like seasons, and so we just kind of transition. Like this might be one big thing I'm working on like right now, and I might not have to deal with it again till next year. So it's not something, it's a little bit different in that aspect, I guess you would say.
Hmm. And when you had initially become a high school counselor, what would you say are some things that really surprised you when you had initially come? You were like, "Oh, I did not expect I have to be doing this," or did not need, I thought I had to do this, but I don't need to."
Yes, I think my very first district I was at, I was very much, I did the whole master's schedule and all of that kind of stuff. It was very much like there were only two, well, I was only counselor actually the first year I was there with two assistant principals. So I was very much a part of their team. So I saw a lot of what was going on, whether it was like discipline or scheduling and things like that. So I was kind of surprised on seeing, all of that. Um, but I think that it just, the amount of more of the academic side that we do, and how that becomes it's necessary. It's just sometimes it feels like a little bit too much of the clerical side and the
Hmm.
paperwork side versus the like connections with kids. But then you go, okay, who's going to do this? But at the end of the day, kids come first, and if they need something, that comes first. And so I think it was like that balance of like how to do my work day when sometimes you've spent this whole day um, taking care of this one thing, and you're like, I have so much paperwork, and just figuring out like it's all going to get done. So that just kind of the management, and like I said, it's kind of comes in waves of years. My first couple of years as a counselor, it was like the very first year I had no idea what I was doing from week to week, and then the second year I was like, okay, in October I do this, in November I need to make sure and do this. And so that kind of helps when you realize like, okay, this time of year is when I need to make sure I'm doing everything.
Hmm. And how would you say, or what would you say is the school counselor's role in providing or promoting equity and access to information about whether it be about colleges or school programs? And how would you say that you've done it at CHS?
I mean, I would say it's always something that's growing that I want to improve on. I feel like it needs to be as simple as possible to be able to find stuff. I don't think needs to be this complicated thing. Like it should be I mean, if we have a website, put it directly there, so that kids can access it. And then as far as seeing us, make it as easy as possible. Um, I think it's important and to step back always and remember that, especially like when it comes to the college process or really anything, yes, I deal with this on a daily basis and I look at this on a daily basis, but any kid or parent that's asking me for help, they don't. And so I don't need to go with the assumption that they should have already known or be irritated by it. I think that it needs to be welcomed. I think that that's just kind of just such a big thing to me, is that making sure and remembering, yeah, I do this all the time. Not everybody else does. And so
Hmm.
making sure that kids don't feel like they're a burden for asking for help or asking questions is really important to me. I want to make sure that they know. And sometimes my answer might come across that way, and it's not even because of the answer. It's just because I'm human and I'm having, I have more emails, so I'm trying to go
Right.
faster. But I always try to make sure, like in my emails, even just the way I perceive, and I show myself is it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to ask for help. I don't expect you to know all the answers. So.
Hmm. And what would you say is some coursework that you would strongly suggest to people who want to be a counselor? Like you took family sciences, and
Yes. Yeah, I would definitely say, I mean, this is the counselor in me that's going to say academically, if you want to go on to the next level, just a good foundation in all of your core stuff, always my thing. But if I were looking at like CHS classes that we offer and going, oh my gosh, this is something I wish I could have taken because y'all have so many more options. I definitely would do anything in like the like psychology, sociology route, just because I'm very interested, in how we think. And I would have been much better prepared for my college like theory classes
Hmm.
that I took if I would have taken those, which would have been much more helpful. But I would say definitely anything like that. And then any courses that just puts you in a position like debate where you're having to see different perspectives of things and you're having to be able to argue both sides of it so that you do truly see both perspectives. So one, those people skills of being able to talk to others, and then two, that perspective, because I think it's important. If you're going to be in a role like this as a school counselor, yes, you are entitled to have your own personal beliefs and personal opinions. You said I set that at the door. Every kid, it is about them and it's about what they need. It is not about my own personal opinion, my own personal beliefs. It is about helping them and helping them navigate whatever is going on. And so I would definitely say classes like that you can grow and just being accepting and being, a person that's aware of the world and that there's much more going on in the world than just what's going on with you, you
Right,
know.
right.
I think that that's really important. And I would definitely say that would be, classes like that allow you the ability to do that. And then really just anything that kind of you're going to be uncomfortable as a school counselor at some point. So any classes, and whether it's academically or socially, where you're feeling some kind of uncomfortableness, no matter what job you have, I think that those are good experiences. It feels terrible in the time. It feels like the worst thing ever. But I am so appreciative of any time I felt uncomfortable when I was younger, especially like in like my high school and college years, because that uncomfortableness isn't as uncomfortable now that I've experienced some. And I can
Hmm.
go, I survived that. Like it was okay. Like it was literally not the end of the world, even though I thought. So, because when you have uncomfortable situations as a counselor, I mean, there are some things that I've heard over the years that I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. Like, but we're going to deal with it. You just got to go with it. You got to do the best that you can. Yeah.
Hmm. And again, pointing back to how you're done family sciences, so what are some other industries or fields a person could go to taking family sciences or a psychology
Yeah.
degree?
So when I was doing my undergrad in my bachelor's degree in family consumer sciences, that was one of the things they actually had us do was what could you potentially do in this career field if you didn't want to teach? And so definitely you could kind of go to the Platts. I was really interested. I looked at and went and talked to like people that worked like at an adoption agency. And I went and talked to like a Planned Parenthood and just talked to people that work with different people in like kind of almost the social work area, kind of similar to that. Now moving up into like the school counseling, I would say definitely the things I've experienced, I could easily go onto the college level and work in that advising area or admissions area very easily based off of the knowledge that I have like here, would easily kind of translate there. And then also just anything. I don't have my LPC, so I'm not a licensed counselor, but if I did additional hours, then I could go into that LPC and do like counseling if I wanted
Hmm.
to. Also, like I said, I was an administrator. So, and once I had my master's in counseling, I also have a little bit of an administrator personality with me. I know that about myself, and I didn't know if I wanted to always do counseling. So I got my administration, and I didn't have to get like a separate master's degree. I actually only had to take 4 extra college classes because I'd done a few during my counseling master's that made that possible and passed that exam. So I did that for a couple of years, and that helped me grow, I think, as a counselor. It helped me, one, appreciate and want to be a counselor more because I figured out what I like and I don't like, in both roles. And I like the relationships with kids that I get to have as a counselor better than I kind of did as an assistant principal. But I also, as an assistant principal, kind of grew as an educator and how to approach difficult situations and how to have difficult conversations and how to kind of be an advocate for all, sides and try to like put those pieces together. So my path was kind of a little bit different. And I'm very appreciative that I've experienced all these different things because I think it makes me more well-rounded and it helps me kind of see different perspectives, which I think is really important if you're going to be a counselor working with kids, especially.
Hmm. And how can you say or how can you tell other high school students get involved in counseling or the social service business? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, Definitely, as far as school counseling, you always have to kind of start with that education background. But I would say if they definitely know that they want to go into school counseling, I liked what I did as like a major for my bachelor's because I feel like then when my content area was in like human development classes, that was better kind of preparing me. Now I could have been like a math teacher, an English teacher, and gone into school counseling. I mean, totally fine, but I am appreciative. I think that it made that transition a little bit easier. I think that I saw how those all things, went together a little bit easier. Definitely, if you're interested in this, like anything in psychology, sociology, and that type of stuff, anything that's going to work with other humans and that you're having to have those relationships with others and that kind of the that interaction with other people. I would say anything kind of within that realm, like the psychology, sociology is probably most of your degree plans. Something in social work. You can still, anything that you're going to get into like your licensed counselors, that's going to be higher degree levels than just a bachelor's degree and things like that. So if you're starting with a bachelor's and you don't want to do the school aspect, I would say go for more of the psychology route and then go into like
Mm-hmm.
the psychiatry or licensed counseling, things like that.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, those are all the questions I really have for you.
Awesome. Perfect.
Thank you so much for being here today and taking the time out your day to come and sit with me. If you have any questions, I'll leave my email down below. Yeah, and just email me. Yeah, thank you, and bye, peace.
Thank you. Bye.